I really am trying to talk about temptations that women experience that we don't really know how to describe or we wouldn't ordinarily describe. The secret kind of temptations within a marriage or within a female relationship.
Thoughts in your head at 2 a.m.
Right.
If you are interested in getting this book, and you really are in sin if you're not interested in getting this book.
Absolutely. This is what you tell all your watchers.
That's the secret.
Every book you put out.
That's the secret to marketing.
Right.
Well, it's good to have Tilly Dillehay here with us. Welcome to Moscow.
Thanks.
Welcome to this little video clip, whatever it is. Tilly is the author of Going On 3 books.
That's right.
That's right. Seeing Green on envy is the first one. Broken Bread on eating issues, food issues for women, the second. And this upcoming book that Canon is going to be releasing, the working title is The Hemlock Letters, which sounds fascinating. What is that?
So it's a Screwtape knockoff for women.
Oh,
yeah,
a Screwtape
making
knockoff.
it sound great.
Okay, so is it a knockoff like a lady demon? And
yeah. So obviously these are demons, which are non-gendered. Although Milton had something to say about them taking different forms and maybe being gendered in their forms or whatever.
And there's a couple of female angelic things in the book of Zechariah. So
that are feminine.
Yes.
Okay. So the idea is that the voice that I'm trying to use in the Screwtape letters it's a different demon that's kind of a feminine voice, kind of a catty.
Okay.
So that was kind of fun to do, kind of add this.
Okay.
Like how would a wicked female demon talk and be interested in,
and
the patient
what would occur to her, right?
Yeah, that's right. What would occur to her, and the patient that they're talking about is a female patient living today.
Today,
yeah.
All right. Now, let me follow up on kind of fun to do. Lewis talks about how it was easy to do, but it got tedious for him after a while, just trying to invert everything.
Right.
Did you find that same experience?
Yeah. Well, there were definitely times where you're talking about the enemy and you're getting confused about who the enemy is.
Wait.
Yeah. Like, well, yeah.
Where am I?
My husband was reading through and he was like, "You're talking. You don't need to call the enemy." I think I was getting it wrong a few times in there, but I mean, the tough thing is just, trying to think like a villain and talk in the voice of a villain. But one thing I did notice in doing these was that, I mean, a few people have done this really well, the imitation of a Screwtape letter as a device, because it's a very effective device. You get to basically pick your hobby horses and then say, here's something the demons really love, so it must be bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, it can be, I think it can be a little self-serving because you get to pick what you think they're the most interested in. And what that's you saying, this is what I think is the most dangerous thing today,
Okay. So here's I might have to have words with the Canon marketing team on this whole thing, but here might be a fatal flaw in this book, and that is we're in 2023, and we are living in an era when women don't sin.
Right.
So how are you going to persuade people that women are vulnerable to certain temptations, or that there are distinct, people will say, well, of course women sin, they're human. But if you say there are distinctively feminine temptations, just like there are distinctively masculine temptations, it's like that's transgressive in our era.
Yeah.
Have you...
Yeah, I mean...
Are you prepared for the blowback?
I'm sure, yeah, maybe. I mean, there's a reason why I felt like I was more comfortable bringing this project to Canon than certain other quarters, I guess. It just felt like the kind of thing that might be hard to sell certain places.
Right.
But,
or that you might get it edited down.
That was I think for me it was
down
like...
to something that's tepid.
Yep, right. Or just, the issues that I think are dangerous at the moment are not necessarily the issues that I think that someone else might think are dangerous, and I might be wrong. That's the thing is, the things that I am the most interested in, I might not be strictly accurate, but...
Okay, so in the original Screwtape setup, the patient is initially not a Christian,
Yeah.
becomes a Christian,
Right.
and then has a sort of a growth pattern of a sanctification, and then it ends with him being killed in an air raid, and going to heaven. And what is your patient's situation? Young woman, old woman, Christian, non-Christian?
Yeah.
What?
So the story kind of opens with her being a recent convert and recently married.
Okay.
Because Screwtape's patient was never married. He died kind of young. I don't know what the span of time is, but it's pretty short lived. So with me, I actually follow her through the years of early marriage and childbearing, and because that's my situation. I have 4 little kids at this point. But there's some little time gaps, and she ends up, spoiler alert, she dies of cancer in her 50s-ish is what it sounds like her children are about to leave the nest. And I decided to kill her because I wanted to kind of follow the pattern
arc.
set, the arc of her approaching death and fearing death. And I chose cancer because I feel like, Screwtape's patient died of the thing everyone was afraid of in that moment, which was dying in an air raid. And my patient is dying of something that women are afraid of, which is getting cancer.
Right.
So,
and it's interesting that Lewis pulls that off in the Screwtape letters, where you sort of like the last battle, everybody dies.
Yeah.
But it's happy. It's
right.
right. It's a good ending. So in Lewis, the patient makes it across the finish line. You have the sensation they made it.
And then they see a confirmation of everything they've been believing this whole time.
Right.
But they get to see it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. See it, and then the reader sort of sees it and tastes it vicariously the same way.
Yeah.
There's a complicated question, I think, for any writer to think about, where you're self-consciously and openly imitating Lewis, who is a masterful writer.
Right.
And you're saying, here, compare me to Lewis.
Right, I know. It's the worst. It's terrible. But
terrible.
Yeah.
But you're going to rise to the occasion.
Right, yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right. So I've seen some, it strikes me that imitation of that sort of thing is what we're supposed to be doing. And when we imitate a master, some are going to do it ham-fistedly and poorly, and it's clunkety. But too many times, more thoughtful observers just say, well, I'm not going to try that. I'm not going to do anything at all. But the scripture tells us that we learn by imitation. This is what we're supposed to do. This is a good device. Why not use it?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you floated these to lady friends, people that you know?
Yeah.
How does this hit you?
Yeah, so I've definitely had friends reading them just to tell me, what do does this make sense? What's being described in this letter? Is this something you've seen? Is it a temptation you've experienced? And so it's been really nice to get that kind of feedback. But I really am. This book is for women. I mean, I don't know how much a man is really going to get out of it, because I really am trying to talk about temptations that women experience that we don't really know how to describe, or we wouldn't ordinarily describe. The secret kind of temptations within a marriage or within a female relationship.
Thoughts in your head at 2 a.m.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So what would be some of the big ticket temptations that you hit on? Would it be fear? Would fear be one? Would envy be one?
Yeah, there's a letter about envy. There are some letters about just female friendship and how we handle those things. Some of the marital ones were partially borrowed from things friends have told me or experiences I've had. But just like early on, the patient has married and she really believes she's married down. Like she actually believes that her husband is so lucky to have her. Right. And that's the kind of thing that I've had to pull out of friends of mine to hear them confirm that they ever had that thought in their head, you know. But I
And
think
is this sort of like a feeling good about the fact that he got quite a trophy, or is it a feeling of despair, like I settled?
right. Yeah, a feeling that you settled, and then a feeling of this is something that I think has been around for a while, but it's really big in social media age that a lot of women really genuinely think that they could have been famous
Okay.
if they had been under different circumstances or
Right.
whatever. And there's a story out of Mice and Men. There's a character in there who's going around flirting with the farmhands, and someone told her one time, because she was pretty, someone told her, you could have been in the pictures. I could have gotten you in the pictures.
Right.
And so this thought has been planted in her head, and she can't do normal life anymore. Like, she can't just be happy raising children, being with her husband, having a normal
Because
life.
I could have been a contender.
That's right. Because
Yeah.
it's I could have been a contender. So this is like the female version of that. That obviously this is in the 30s when moving pictures were new. I don't know what was the comparable thought for a woman before then. But now you have social media where a woman could kind of create her own fame if she was good enough at it.
Do you? It sounds like you're going in the direction of women who confuse their Instagram life with their sanctification.
Right.
Like this is, I can carefully curate
Yes.
for the public what my life is like.
Yeah.
And it's not like that at all.
Right. Well, there's a couple of different letters about just social media life and what that's like for the average woman. But the fame thing, just the idea that a woman genuinely might believe that she could have been famous, and that her normal, average, hardworking husband is not really enough eyes for her. I feel like that's a more common experience.
I'm wondering if you touch on this. I've been, I was just talking with someone the other day about someone who is a young woman who's sort of been lied to consistently about, flattered, like where a dad or brothers or people think that they're making a young woman secure by complimenting all the time. And what they're actually doing is making her delusional. Right? That seems to be the kind of thing you're talking about, where you've got this imaginary construct. Someone flatters you or compliments you, and you dine out on that for years.
You skate on it. Yeah.
Skate on it. Okay. Do you think there would be there's a question that comes up? You mentioned that this is a book by a woman for women, and you're not sure that men would get anything out of it. Might a husband say, "Oh, this is a great blessing to my wife," and he reads it and he goes, "Hey, is that what they think of us?"
Yeah. I thought she was sinless, and she's not.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, I guess, but there's a lot of the other things in there are just ordinary Christian living types of things: prayer and confession of sin, keeping short accounts with your spouse and your children, and aging. I don't,
Is the setup the same as the senior retired tempter and junior tempter?
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of them named Hemlock.
Yeah. Hemlock. I think Hemlock is the one writing the letters, because that's how it's supposed to be, right? Screwtape. But it's like a more experienced demon on the force, on the ministry for the absorption of women.
Okay.
And she's as hateful to her mentee as she is to anyone else, but it's in this kind of catty way. Yeah.
There's a theological angle to this. As it happens, my wife and I have a short time of reading together, Bible reading and reading a devotional book and another book, and we're currently reading Screwtape letters.
Okay.
Reading it out loud. And I've just been freshly in Screwtape. I've read it a number of times. But this comes up, Lewis is very interesting here, because he's not, I think he's he's not reformed in the 5-point Calvinist sort of way. But I think he understood the Reformation and understood the essential issues.
Mm-hmm.
But he also talks as though the patient who has just become a Christian is, from the demon's point of view, retrievable.
Right, he does, yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So, okay, he's a Christian now, mm-hmm. but all is not lost.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We can still get him.
Yeah.
We can still get him to our Father's house below. Mm-hmm. Was that thought in your mind at all?
I did kind of treat it that way, because I guess I was when it was really hard to work through, like, how much do the demons know? How much of the thoughts of the patient can they actually see? What is it, which is something I've wondered for my whole lifetime. Why is it that they're involved in this war that's unwinnable? Like, why do they think it's unwinnable?
If the demons knew, for example, that the patient was elect,
right, and
would they say, "Oh,
would
never
they
mind"?
Leave it alone. I assume they wouldn't, because there's still work to do. There's still effectiveness for the kingdom to sort of muddle and get in the way of. But
the goal wouldn't be the damnation.
The damnation. Yeah, but I do have it where they don't know who's elect, so they're trying for every soul.
Okay. All right. So that's their operating assumption, is that the patient is retrievable from our perspective.
Yeah.
But by that, you're not saying anything about whether you believe in election, right? Right.
No.
Okay. So when you unpack this sort of how should I put this? In Screwtape, there's a lot of dissection of thoughts and intents and motives, right?
Yeah.
And Lewis is unique in that he is an introspectionist, but not a morbid introspectionist. Mm-hmm. So there's a kind of introspection that people get they paralyze themselves by digging deep and digging deep.
Yeah.
But Lewis slices it really fine.
Right. But he doesn't get lost.
Yeah. Right.
How does he do it?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Yeah. How did you do it?
I didn't. I really tried hard, though. But that's what makes Screwtape letters effective, is that he understood people. Like, it's not necessarily that he understood demons, it's that he understood the human heart so well. So the things that he's describing in Screwtape letters are so recognizable and so incisive, I guess.
Yeah, and there's another essay where Lewis says, when I don't know, he was speaking about apologetics, and he said, I find it most effective to talk to people about, in a generation where they have very dim views about sin, very blurry views about sin. Mm-hmm. He said, I find it most effective to talk to them in terms of something that I've struggled with, or that I've, not that he's not talking about giving a testimony. Let me tell you about what I just did earlier today, but to just speak of sin in the categories that he understands very well, because he's fighting that.
And I think himself. Screwtape was supposed to be pretty autobiographical, I think, right? I mean, that a lot of what he's describing were things he experienced.
Yeah, Lewis how could you know that much?
Right, yeah.
How could you know that much about what's going on unless you had a seat on the 50-yard line, looking at your own heart, looking at your own temptations. Mm-hmm.
So I would say that I tried to imitate that principle as well, to generally stick with things that I know firsthand. There are definitely a couple of things that I talked about that were secondhand.
Right.
But I was trying to stick with.
Right. So knowledge, basically, in writing anything like this, knowledge of the human condition is essential, not excluding yourself, but at the same time, not making it all about yourself. It's not automatic. You have a sense that Lewis is autobiographical, but not that you can just take everything to the bank. Oh, this happened to him. This happened to him.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's the same thing here.
Yeah. Okay. Definitely.
You said she's just recently married. Your patient's just recently married.
Yeah.
And the story ends when she's around 50. So you're looking at a 30-year span.
Yeah. Somewhere in there, 20 or 30.
Okay. Yeah. So do you have, interactions with kids? Is it toddlers? Is it teens? Is it kids marrying? What is there?
I had to be pretty general by the time I got to the empty nest phase, because I everything would be secondhand completely. But there's some discussion just of like child rearing, our authority averse age that we live in, and how she's kind of working uphill to even try to establish any kind of authority with her kids. There's some mention later on of just her identity changing when they're starting to get out of the nest.
More independent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does she have a hard life? Reasonable?
I think she has a super easy life, but she doesn't find that out until halfway through. She discovers gratitude basically at some point.
Okay.
And it changes, but she has a great life.
A great life.
Like most of the people I know.
A great life, not
great.
Perceived as such.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So decent marriage, normal bumps.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I wasn't trying to deal with big catastrophic, I was just really trying to deal with your average Christian life.
One of the things that Lewis leans on is things like circle of friends. Mm-hmm. Like when there's that early episode where he gets caught up in the smart set.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And then later when he meets the girl he falls in love with, he gets ushered into this other circle of completely different kinds of people. Mm-hmm. Do you have a lot of interaction with folks at church or neighbors or what's the setting there?
So there's a point in the book, and it's very derivative of the smart set letter from Screwtape, where she gets reconnected with her sort of pre-Christian friends and starts a mommy wine night, and it's that kind of one foot in each world's kind of situation, where she also has just started to be drawn into these healthy Christian households and learning from them and how they, how they work, the aroma there that she's wanting to imitate in her new home, and yet she also finds it kind of offensive to be around them because they show her things about herself that are uncomfortable, you know. So she's deciding who to kind of throw her lot in with.
Okay. So here's a change of pace here. As a writer, your two previous books were straightforward prose.
Right.
Are you a prose writer who is venturing into? This is not like a novel. Well, it's kind of more, but it's more like a novel than it's like prose writing.
It's like the prose writer's novel.
Prose writer,
because it couldn't really be an easier version of fiction. It's nonfiction that's been fictionalized. Yeah. Okay. I tell you what was fun about it, though. The voice was fun. Like trying that voice on is a blast.
Right.
It is. You don't have to deal with, characters being strong or weak or plots being strong or weak. You just get to try on a fun voice. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, in a novel, you have to make things happen.
Yeah.
In the letters, the letter writers are reacting to things that have already happened.
Right. Yeah, that's right. And those are the kinds of things about fiction that I don't really understand, is how to move conflict forward effectively, so you don't really have to deal with that.
Raymond Chandler just said, "Bring in a guy with a gun."
Right.
He said, whenever things are dragging a little bit.
There should have been more guns in this book. Now that
explosions and motorcycles.
Right. I forgot about all those things.
If you are interested in getting this book, and you really are in sin if you're not interested in getting this book.
Absolutely. This is what you tell all your watchers.
That's the secret.
Every book you put out.
That's the secret.
That's how you sell books.
That's the secret to marketing.
Right. Great.
So those of you who are interested in this book, you can check the link in the description, and you can arrange to pre-order it. The working title is The Hemlock Letters, and it may be that that's the title when we get there. It may be a little different. If it's a little different, don't be thrown. It's the same book.